All right, so good evening again, everyone. We are gearing up for our partner project team presentations, and we're starting with team 3, which is Kayla and Jade. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. Be prepared to get your minds blown. It's a Kayla and Jade collaboration, okay? So, we decided to focus on Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS, which is an organization and a nonprofit organization. I'm Kayla Powell, and this is...
I'm Jade Scott.
Okay. So here's some background about the organization. They have their biggest mission over here on the purple blue side is that they, unlike most other nonprofit grant-making organizations, Broadway Care / Equity Fights AIDS must raise every dollar of our philanthropic budget each year in order to fulfill our mission. In turn, Broadway Care / Equity Fights AIDS works hard to ensure that the money we raise is spent carefully and wisely on programs where these hard-earned funds can have the maximum possible impact. This was a quote taken directly from their mission statement, which is on their website. And their major vision is to mobilize the unique abilities within the entertainment industry to mitigate the suffering of individuals affected by HIV and/or AIDS. So this is a nice infographic that kind of just describes all of the different things they do. So they have the Actors Fund, they have national grant programs that are all throughout the country. They do nutritious meals, community support, emergency financial assistance, which is a very big thing, you know, put a pin in that. So counseling and social services, healthcare and life-saving medications, and they have a big impact on the community. So they're turning the love into money and money into love. And they're known for this red bucket. That's if you go to see some shows and the red bucket gets passed around, that's for Equity Cares or Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS. So I have some fun facts. They are well known for a lot of their digital content. Every year they do a Broadway Bears, Broadway Backwards, and the Easter Bonnet competition, which is a yearly competition between different shows on Broadway. A lot of their content is focused and based out of New York, but it does reach a bigger audience. And I'm gonna play a clip from Titus Burgess singing And I'm Telling You I'm Not Going from Dreamgirls, and I want you to figure out why it's considered Broadway Backwards. I'm telling you, I'm not going, even though the rough times are showing. You see, there's no way, there's no way. The part of the same time, people share the same love. Got the same mind, and time, we got so much to share. No, I'm not waking up tomorrow morning and finding that there's nobody else. So that's a quick little clip. I'm not going to do, if you want to watch it on your own, I highly recommend. Other big things to know is that Broadway Cares and Equity Fights AIDS were two separate organizations, and they merged in 1992 to form what we now know as Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS. Broadway Cares was considered a part of the producers group, and that was money that they were donating to the HIV and AIDS efforts in the 80s. And Equity Cares was a segment coming from Actors Equity. Just something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Kayla. Now I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to talk about the financial structure, how COVID has impacted them, and what we're going to do to help them during this difficult time. So firstly, the financial structure of Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS is really dependent upon a few specific fundraising arms. So as you can tell from the graph on my right, the largest benefactor to Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS is benefits. Benefits on average produces 47.9% of the total revenue of Broadway Cares Fight AIDS. So the average amount per year gained from benefits is about $12.8 million. The next highest one are national grants. So these would be things funded by the government. So things from the NEA and organizations like this go into this. And that is 25.8% of the budget. So that hovers around 6.8 on average, $6.8 million on average each year. And then funding from the Actors Fund hovers on $3.9 million per year at about 14.9%. Now, put a pin in that. We're going to come back to why that's a little higher than it typically is. And lastly, international grants are 11.3%. And though it's not on the graph due to the sizing, that hovers around $3.8 million a year. They also do individual donations, like Kayla mentioned, in that red bucket. I'm sure if you've been to a Broadway show or a Broadway tour, you've seen them talk about the red bucket at the very end of the show and have it passed around so they can get the money. While that is a thing that happens, while we were looking at their tax returns, we did not find a breakdown for how much money they received for that. But that is also something that they do. So COVID-19, of course, has had quite a large impact on the entertainment industry, as I'm sure you all know, considering you're a part of it, because we're no longer allowed to be in crowds. And that is what theater is. Well, I mean, it's been pretty severe, and that's really evident in Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS. So as you can tell from this graph, you can see exactly where things start to take a bit of a dive. On average, when we look at what things look like before 2020, it is typically going up. But once 2020 happened, it dropped 84% from the previous year in revenue. As a result of COVID-19, Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS established the COVID-19 Emergency Fund. This was set with a goal of raising $7 million so as to pay for health insurance and other financial aid needed for the actors. And as of now, they have raised $6.8 million with a backing of 18,275 individual donors. So that is where they are at this moment. They also, in conjunction with the Actors Fund, have established a COVID-specific arm with $1 million called Every Artist Insured Services. Now, this did technically exist before COVID-19, but as I mentioned before, and I just want to reiterate, the $1 million that they donated is specifically for health insurance due to COVID-related illnesses. One of the other reasons there's been such a massive downfall in revenue for the Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS is because many of these events had to be canceled. So as Kayla mentioned earlier, the Easter Bonnet competition is one of the more well-known events. It's also, on average, the second highest grossing benefit that they do. And it averages $5 million, it averages $5.7 million a year. And that event was canceled. So that is money that will no longer be coming in due to COVID-19. And also Broadway Backwards, which is the third highest grossing event, was also canceled due to COVID-19 because crowds, and that on average averages $5 million. So this is a massive loss. Now, they haven't just been sitting ducks, they haven't been going woe is me and singing the soliloquies. They have been trying to supplement these lack of benefits with special online events. So for instance, they hosted a virtual concert with Cheetah Rivera and Bernadette Peters and some other artists. And they will be holding 3 more by January. So there are another 3 happening in December. And from those events, they have raised $679,000, which is not comparable to the events that they canceled, but it is something. Now, you might be asking, well, with such a dip, how can we sort of help out? Well, we've come up with this fundraising program that we hope will really help supplement some of the loss that they've experienced.
Drum roll, please.
This is the Brightest Star competition. So the Brightest Star competition is essentially it's an amateur singing competition where people vote with their dollars for their favorite singers. and the top 10 singers, who are essentially the top 10 people who have the most money, will get to sing a digital duet with a special Broadway guest star of their choosing out of the selection that we have. So the point of this is that COVID's really been a letdown for a lot of people. It's really brought a lot of dark clouds around. People are being infected with diseases. People are losing loved ones. People are losing jobs. It's a tough time. But as always, theater has been there. Even when it's not been physically there, it has been present in our hearts and our souls with songs that have kept us up and have kept our heads held high. It's been our bright star guiding us through this dark time. And so we wanted people to sing the song that's been the bright star for them in the pandemic. It's just really a celebration of things that lift us up. Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned, the prizes are duets with special guest singers. These are special guest singers.
We're ready for the special guests?
We're ready for the special guests.
Because they're the VIPs, all right?
Period. Okay, so our special guest singers are 2-time Tony Award winner Patti LuPone, 6-time Tony Award winner Audrey McDonald, 2-time Tony nominee Evelyn Lozada, the Hamilton star Anthony Ramos, and then Pose star MJ Rodriguez, who, though you may know her best on Pose, was also a Broadway star before her big break on FX hit show. So we chose these guest singers because they all have histories with either Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, such as Audrey McDonald and Patti LuPone. Patti LuPone actually hosted a special event back in 2015, a special benefit concert for Broadway Cares.
Both Patti and Audra are considered theater icons.
Yeah, truly.
Who are literally like divas at this point. Like we worship the ground they walk on. We know who they are. You know, you have to give respect to them.
Yes, so we thought that they would be a great draw for everybody, every demographic, but especially those of the middle and older demographics. And then our other three on the side, let's start with Evelyn Lozada and Anthony Ramos. These people are up and coming, and they were in very popular shows. Hadestown was a cult classic, and Hamilton, of course, is Hamilton. So they will be a big draw with our younger demographics and our more passionate people who have an online presence. And of course, MJ Rodriguez plays a HIV positive woman on a critically acclaimed and highly popular show. So she'll help tie it back into what the mission of Broadway Cares is, as well as being a fantastic singer who has her own platform with people outside of the Broadway audience. So she gets to bring in an even larger group of people who could be interested in sharing what they love. So we'll move on to who's on our team and who's gonna make this event be as fantastic as possible. So
we also think it's important to have MJ involved once again, because MJ's character does take place, Pose takes place specifically at the height of the AIDS and HIV epidemic in the 80s and early 90s. So we thought it was really important to, kind of tie in that recognition of the roots and when it was at its highest, but also, give it a through line with the people involved.
Thank you, Kayla. So on our team, we've chosen people from the actual organization of Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. The senior development officer, Sarah Cardillo, will help with galvanizing the donor base that she already has, as well as interacting with, as well as developing the base that we want to get, since that is her field. The communication specialist, Francesca Toscano, will help with developing a social media strategy to reach people across all demographics. So that's launching campaigns on Facebook for older demographics, campaigns on Twitter and TikTok, just to reach people and make sure they know that this is a thing they can do. The development coordinator, Susan Sloteroff, will be helping Ms. Cardillo with the development. And social media manager, Josh Bly, will be helping Francesca with, again, developing that social media plan so that we reach as many people as possible. So not only as many people as possible can share their passion, but also they can help people who need it most at this devastating time in health. Lastly, we have, again, actor and activist MJ Rodriguez, who would be using her platform, again, to reach people, to tell them if this is something they can do. She would be kind of working as a face for the program, just to give it an easily identifiable person that you can connect with and understand. Kayla's going to take it from here.
So we have some goals as a result of this campaign competition. So we really want to spotlight the amateurs and non-equity performers, because they don't really get the opportunity to shine, especially in the fact that there are no current shows going on. So we wanted to be able to give them an opportunity to get more exposure. We wanted to be able to raise funds for the emergency aid specifically. because this is probably the most important thing we can do as if we were working with Broadway Cares, because currently there are so many artists who are unemployed, and the whole goal essentially is to try to help them, and also help the organization by trying to raise the money that they need to keep going. We also really want to uplift the theater community. I came to I created the metaphor that the theater industry is currently in a coma, because it is asleep. It's not dead, but we just don't know when it's coming back, and we don't know how. So because of that, I kind of just said like, oh, it's in a coma. I also said we want to bridge the gap between the mainstream success stars, meaning the Audra McDonalds, the Patti LuPones, as well as the newcomers who are also in the spotlight with their audiences. One of the best parts about the Broadway Cares performances, including the Broadway Backwards and Broadway Bears and the Easter Bonnet competition, is that the content that the cast decide to participate in and present is looked forward to all the time by many people who are involved in the theater community. So because those events were canceled, this is a great opportunity to just kind of remember why you love theater, why you like show tunes, all of the above. So here's our fundraising plan. In order to vote, people must donate. That's just gonna be how it goes. You wanna participate, you gotta vote. You gotta vote, you gotta give a little money, okay? We're gonna take video submissions that will then be uploaded to the Broadway Cares YouTube channel, which is very active and constantly has content, and a dedicated fan base. We're gonna have each tier that's introduced in the week prior to, and every time someone moves further up a tier, the donation amount increases from an optional $1 to maybe $2 to $3 to $4 to $5, as you want to continue voting. And then Broadway Cares will use Classy, which we're going to come back to monitor the donations. So, Kayla, what's Classy? Well, let me tell you. Classy is this fundraising software that Broadway Cares already subscribes to that helps them track and monitor who's donating where. They work with over 4,000 nonprofits, and this can help us determine who's participating in this voting. The goal is to get this to be not only a theater community event, but also something that can reach beyond that. So Classy provides 9 different types of resources, and they are actively always trying to help and partner with their nonprofit organizations that they work with to figure out different ways to increase their funds. So now the question is like, who are we trying to serve? So clearly there's always the members of Actors Equity. It is part of it, the organization is part or tied to Actors Equity, so we can't forget that. We want to help the active members of the American theater community, artists who have HIV and or AIDS. We want to work with the well-known theater icons. We want to give the spotlight to up-and-coming performers. We focus on all 50 states as well as Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, where grants are given. And it's also very important because recently, within the racial unrest of 2020, a lot was revealed about racial harassment within the theater community called We See You WAT, WAT standing for White American Theater. Hopefully with this competition, we can also try to involve and showcase more people of color who deserve to be in the spotlight. So with that being said, we're gonna open the floor for questions. So does anyone have anything?
Any questions for our wonderful team here?
A raised hand. Let it be known, Jade and I are intense musical theater people, okay? So now it's time to ask.
All righty, well, thank you so much, ladies. We will move on to team number 1, which is Donisha and Jakayla, after which we'll have team number 2, which is Cameron and Maya.
Hello. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this presentation is by me and Jakayla, or Jakayla and I, sorry. And our presentation is on the Grand Center Arts Academy, which is an academy that Jakayla herself actually attended.
Okay, Grand Center Arts Academy is an art school and academic public charter school, and it's located in St. Louis, Missouri. And when the academy first started, I was in middle school and it only had the grades 6 through 8. And every year they added a grade and eventually evolved into a high school as well. So they now serve grades 6 through 12. And the academy includes visual arts, theater, music, and dance. The mission. The mission of Grand Center Arts Academy is to support the school through fundraising and volunteer hours as a collaborative network of unique schools in the urban setting. Confluence develops the whole child by providing experiences that require critical thinking, creativity, and empathy towards equipped graduates to become leaders in a changing society.
Okay, so a little bit more about the nonprofit. The parent-teacher organization, also known as PTO, is used to support Grand Center Arts Academy staff and students with volunteer hours and fundraising. Purchases help to fund the sponsored activities for GCAA students and staff. Events include student field trips, student competitions, and audition fees, academic and social events. The revenue and expenses. So contributions, grants, and gifts total in $41,515,140, with the total of $51,145,400 in revenue. Expenses include $34,838,151 in program services and $1,416,507 in admissions, totaling in $45,255,022 in expenses.
Okay, so here we list the creative plans that will help fund and get different funds for the academy. And what we came up with is concerts, flash mobs, raffles. The academy can as well search for paid performance opportunities where donations will be given, and festivals incorporating the arts. Each event will be hosted to potentially receive money from the donors, as well as an opportunity to advertise the Arts Academy department and organization.
And these are just some of what's on the website for what the PTO's creative plans are for raising money. So they like to sell merchandise, they do basket raffles, they seek partnerships, and they also have PTO meeting development ideas. And each will contribute to the Academy's needs and goals of developing strategic / creative ways to bring more finances to support the arts department. They need more instruments, funds for field trips, auditions, hosted events, and competitions. And these are our sources.
Thank you, ladies. Does anyone have any questions for this team? Any questions for team one?
How do you think that, Jakayla, how do you think the program affected you and your artistic development?
Honestly, that was the first performing arts school I attended, so it was just different and it impacted me by getting to like work with different students and balancing my academics and dancing at the same time. So overall, I just got to experience both and learned how to develop a schedule where I can develop as an artist and make sure I'm on top of my academics, and the training as well really helped me. Like I said, I will attend like classes and summer camps and stuff like that, but overall they helped me with my training as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, ladies, so very much. We're moving on to team number 2, which is Cameron and Maya. And so that means team number 6, which is our dance other ladies, Jillian, Naomi, and Siani. You be on standby.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm pulling up our presentation. Give me 1 second. Okay, are you all able to see?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Okay, cool. So hi again, everyone. My name is Maya. Cameron, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron.
Yep, so, and we chose to research the Children's Theater Company for our summary report and development plan.
Okay, so the Children's Theater Company is located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It provides a lot of educational opportunities for youths in schools and in the community. They also have opportunities for educators as well. During COVID, they've definitely been very resourceful and have virtual opportunities through their virtual performances and virtual field trips. They also have a variety of programs that include theater arts training for youths. They also have at-home arts activities, which are amazing, like mindfulness, for example, or different compositions that students can write, music and things like that as well. They also have an Act One platform, which allows access, diversity, inclusion, justice, and equality to be enforced in their operations, performances, and processes. So the organization's mission is to create extraordinary theater experiences that educate, challenge, and inspire young people in their communities. Their vision is to unleash the power of curiosity, empathy, and imagination. Their values include imagination, excellence, respect, and inclusion, and they implement these things throughout their programs as well.
So when taking a look at the financial status of the Children's Theater Company, they've got a pretty big budget. So their revenue is, as you can see, over $16 million, and all of this information is taken from their season ending in 2018. That was their most recent information. On the right-hand side, excuse me, you can see a bit more of a breakdown of all of the things that I'm talking about. But yeah, so their revenue is about $16.8 million for that year. And then their expenses for that year totaled $13,530,095. So as you can see, that leaves them with an end of the year surplus of $3.3 million, which compared to the research that I had done previously for our other summary reports, that's a really big difference. I was seeing a lot of small deficits or maybe even a very small surplus, but having a surplus of 3.3 million is a really great spot to be in. Just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean that you can't end the year with a surplus. So I think that's really great for them. As you can see, the majority of their revenue comes from grants, contributions, and other special events revenue. And from the 2016-2017 season to this season that we're looking at right now, their revenue increased by almost $4 million just in that one area, so off of grants and donations. So they really rely on that section a lot. And then their largest area of expense, or excuse me, their smallest area of expense is actually in fundraising and development, which I think is really great to note because that's their largest area of income. So it's really a shout out to the development team for being able to bring in such a large amount of money and using such a very small portion of the budget. When you move on and look at the development structure, you can see kind of the hierarchy of who works in finance and who handles the money in the organization. But some of the big fundraising and development campaigns that Children's Theater Company uses are their Next Stage campaign, which is kind of new for COVID-19, helping them to create online content and support people who may be out of a job at the moment. They also, of course, do individual gifts, so you can match a gift with your employer, donate a stock, donate your estate, put that as a part of your will. And they also, their biggest special fundraising event is called the Curtain Call Ball. At the last ball they had in 2018, they raised over $400,000 in just one evening. So they really rely on that heavily. Over the past 30 years, they've raised about $30 million with that one event alone. So it's a really big source of income. And then they also have institutional partners. And I put this flyer for Cinderella on here because you can see at the bottom some of their institutional partners. It's a little small, but one of the big ones you can see is Delta, the airline company. They've also got some local news stations. Some other notable institutional partners include PNC and Wells Fargo. So they really have some people giving them a lot of money, and all of those donors give at least $100,000 to them annually.
So our plan basically was to develop a couple of different programs, for example, a community engagement internship with a variety of goals, but to extend their communication and collaboration with partners, develop initiatives to serve minority groups in the community, create more programming, and also the organizational goal to improve services and relationships with minority groups. Some of the objectives were to basically for interns to research and evaluate diversity of the audiences and staff, and also the classes served or offered at CTC to increase the opportunities for children to actually learn about diversity and inclusion, and also to use those community partners to either create educational opportunities or policy changes or community service for the organization. The community objective was also to host at least 3 new recurring programs with community partners. The other program that we have is a leadership and business fellowship program that works for interns to, or sorry, it's actually a fellowship program for graduate students as opposed to the other one. And fellows will observe and engage in business practices of the company, analyze and evaluate the effectiveness and innovativeness of their current programs at CTC, as well as create reports to have solutions to improve the company's current operations. It also is good for CTC because they're able to invest in a future generation of arts administrators through providing those opportunities, resources, and also mentorship. Some of the objectives include drafting fundraising proposals and presenting them to the board from the fellows. They will also report about current policies and procedures of the program and complete individual projects to create a new initiative for the organization, in which CTC will then add 1 new initiative or policy by the end of the year. So basically, the community engagement internship allows participants who are in college or recently graduated to learn project management, leadership, and networking, and really expand on the current opportunities for minority groups and community partners at CTC. What we found is through some of their current programs like Act 1, they enforce a lot of policies to include people of different groups, whether it's the LGBTQ community or people who are disabled or people who aren't really able to fund coming to some of their shows regularly. They really enforce policies for inclusion, but they also don't really have programming to really act on the things that they say that they're about. And so we really wanted to combat discrimination and things like that through expanding different programs to not only educate children about racism, but also expand some of their other things as well to really implement some of the different initiatives that they're about. The other fellowship is the Leadership in Business Fellowship that I mentioned previously, which is for participants who are graduate students or upcoming graduate students. And it allows them to learn business management, artistic directing, production management. They'll actually be able to shadow some of the executives at CTC and attend board meetings to kind of learn the different business practices that are enforced, and also be able to conduct research and develop new policies and procedures and initiatives for the organization based on the things that they've learned. We really just thought that CTC is so invested in children and the little ones, but they can also invest in young adults and future leaders, because they will be the new generation of arts administrators, and they will also be able to gain new perspectives from these fellows and interns as a result. So as I mentioned, the audience for this program are current college students for the community engagement internship, as well as upcoming graduate students or current graduate students for the fellowship. We basically chose this because it's pretty minimal in terms of what it demands from the organization as well. The recruitment process still ensures high quality work from the students. A lot of their internships that they currently have are also unpaid, although they offer stipends, so you don't really have to worry about wages. And then also provides new perspectives on CTC operations and programming. And it still invests in the futures of young arts leaders as well.
So there's multiple different strategies and resources that we came up with in order to implement this development plan. So first, you can look at the marketing of the internship as well as the fellowship. We thought, even though it sounds pretty simple, that CTC should use social media and their website as a resource. And currently they do use their website as a resource for people who are interested in applying for the internships that they do currently have. However, when I was swirling back through all their social media pages, they've never promoted any of their job opportunities, let alone their internships on social media. And since, especially in the age that we're in right now, social media, the internet is everything. It's where we find the majority, if not all, of our information. So just making that one small step and having the marketing and communications team work on digital graphics and flyers to be able to put out on social media and start a marketing campaign digitally would really be a great strategy to increase applicants and get really high quality students who are interested in both the intern and fellowship programs. Next, a strategy that CTC would need to implement is internal preparation, which again sounds very simple, but if you think about it, it really requires a lot of work on their end to be able to make sure that the people who are coming in with these programs have the best experience possible. So we first thought they should create committees of mentors to be able to serve as a resource for both the interns and the fellows. So for the internship program, we would be able to find a mentor for them in the education department, in the artistic office, as well as the Act One initiative. So they'd have mentors in each one of those offices / departments, because those are all the people that they'd be working with throughout their internship. Likewise, for the fellowship, we'd find a mentor in the executive office, whether that's the managing director, the artistic director, or even their executive assistant. The artistic office, so anyone who's working on productions, as well as the board of trustees, because this is the person who's going to be in all of those meetings and spending time with those top level executives and hearing how the decisions get made. Also in internal preparation, we thought it was a very smart idea to go ahead and develop an ideal list of specific tasks, goals, and experiences that the incoming fellows and interns should have. And of course, that list should be open to revision and edits once the students are chosen, because the experience should be kind of tailored to what they're interested in and what they want to accomplish. But there should also be some set things that CTC wants them to get done, kind of like how Cam was talking about the goals and objectives, and developing that list is a perfect way to make sure they all get accomplished. And then lastly, one strategy that we set aside was forming new relationships. So those marketing materials that I mentioned earlier, a really great way to get new people into your world is to share those resources with new collegiate partners. This theater company actually had a program with Howard's theater admin program. And when we went on the website to kind of think if we were going to work on expanding that, it actually wasn't there on the website anymore. So it's clear that CTC not only needs to expand their reach from the, the colleges and universities in Minnesota who may partake in the semester-long internships, but to broaden their scope outside of the state and across the country to be able to find new colleges to partner with. And then we also, on that same vein, thought that they should host collegiate information sessions with those partners to be able to spark interest in current students, kind of how we have, Woolly Mammoth and other theaters come in and talk to us about the potential work opportunities that we could have with them. CTC could do the same thing. Next is developing a team. The team honestly doesn't need to be super big, and the really great thing about this is that you don't need any new hires. So we'd create 2 committees to help select the fellow and the intern, and these teams are listed below, and quite honestly, they can be the same people that are selected as the mentors for each one of those positions. So a representative from education and Act 1 would work together to determine who the community engagement intern is, and then for leadership and business, you'd have someone from the executive office, the artistic office, and the board of trustees working together to see who would best fit with the goals that they have set aside. And again, you don't need to hire anyone new for this, which is a really great way to cut down on costs.
So basically, we will evaluate and track the success of the internship program and fellowship through looking at the demand and the amount of applicants that apply. We will also receive feedback and guidance through those mentors and executives in the community engagement area and those leadership positions. And we will also have careful evaluation of the interns and fellows reports and presentations and proposals that they have as a result of their time there, and look at whether they are really developing those skills and learning and taking away from these opportunities.
Lastly, we have our budget and our fundraising for this plan. So it's actually a one-sided budget. There's expenses that are incurred, but no monetary revenue is brought in. However, I will come back to that in a second. So when we're talking about the expenses for the internships, they're listed below, and they're basically just benefits. Usually internships aren't paid, which as students, we all kind of hate, but as a company, I understand that it really saves you a lot of money and allows you to have students get a lot of experience. The only real expense for the internship would be complimentary tickets, and even that may be able to really not be a super huge expense because theater companies already comp a lot of tickets for staff members, and adding in a couple more is truly not a big deal considering how many comp tickets staff members usually get. And then for the fellowship, they'd have all the benefits of the interns, but they would also receive housing and utilities that is paid for by the company, as well as a grocery and local travel stipend of $150 a week. And all of this is listed on the budget on the right-hand side, which brings the budget to a grand total of $11,092, which in my mind, as a person who does not have a salary job, that is a lot of money. But in the eyes of a company who has, over $30 million a year in revenue, that's really not a super huge dent in their budget. Because of that, the fundraising for this program does not have to be very intense. Like I mentioned earlier, they had a $3.3 million surplus a year ago. Continuing that streak, although it's unlikely with COVID, they've got money set aside that they could be able to use for a program like this. And if not, the curtain call ball that I mentioned previously, last year it raised $400,000 in one evening. It's very easy to be able to set aside a specific portion of funds, or even market and promote that they're raising money specifically to implement this new program to encourage and enlighten and really just raise up the next generation of arts administrators would end up being very successful. And while I said there is no monetary revenue that's brought in, if you take a look again at CTC's mission and their values and their vision, they're really all about preparing the next generation and teaching and training and making sure that people have the experiences and educational opportunities that they need to be able to have a career in the arts or have a path in the arts if that's their choice. And doing this, it's honestly providing that on a whole entirely new level. They're encouraging and inspiring the next generation of artists, and even, potentially training the people who could be stepping into their shoes and running CTC one day. So while it doesn't seem like there's money coming in, there is a long-term benefit that will be applied by implementing this program. So that's the end. Any questions? Okay, wow, it got really dark.
Team 2. Okay, well, team 6, are you ready? And then after team 6, we have team 5, and then team 4 will close us out.
I think we're ready. Are you here, Jillian?
Yes, I am. Hello everyone, my name is Jillian Clifford.
My name is Naomi Johnson.
And my name is Yanni Beckett.
And today we will be presenting our campaign, The Art of Inclusion. So The Art of Inclusion is a campaign for the nonprofit arts organization, The Art of Elysium. They are based in Los Angeles and they were founded in 1997 by Jennifer Howell. The reason why she created this organization is because she had a personal experience with her best friend who had leukemia. As she spent a lot more time in the hospital, she realized that the children around her were very sorry, I'm at a loss for words. They were very subject to loneliness. So she wanted to combine her passion for arts and film along with these children to basically create a better place for the world and for children. So on their website, they say that they help those facing challenges such as illness, hospitalization, displacement, confinement, and/or crisis. Currently, they offer 110 community programs a month that all include the disciplines art-based self-esteem, fashion and design, film and theater, music and movement, and visual arts. So as you can see from their vast disciplines of art programs, they're a very, very big program and they get a lot of funding. They also provide volunteer artists, so those who they hire as artists to serve and host these programs. They provide support services such as artist salons, networking events, showcases, and distribution opportunities. So this way, many people win at once. The current people on the team are 8 women. We have the founder, who is Jennifer Howell, Anna Rogers, who serves as the COO, Leslie Culp, Tosh Brooks, Amy Belknap, Andre Bell Conley, Shannon Going, and Krista Makovina. These last ladies serve as the directors for all of the different community programs. Our campaign, The Art of Inclusion, is a plan to diversify the organization. So below you can see a chart that is taken directly from their website that is titled Primary Reasons for Hiring in 2019. As you can see at the bottom, one of their lowest reasons is to enhance diversity in staff at 6%. I'll dive more into the purpose of this in the next slide. So the problem and how to solve it. As our group researched more about the organization to find out what they needed most, one of the biggest things that stuck out to us was their huge lack of diversity in all aspects of their organization, including their website, their social media and media in general, their partnerships, the communities they serve, as well as the staff. Not only do they lack in these areas, but it is evident that it is not their top priority to fix, as we saw in the chart on their website. It seems like few people of color they do have are tokens because their representation across their website, their social media, etc., isn't consistent. Also, after some snooping done by us on their social pages, we saw that they barely addressed recent events in relation to racism and the Black Lives Matter movement. The statement that they did have was very vague, and it didn't make us believe they truly value the lives of people of color and Black people especially. Also, not once did they mention the words Black Lives Matter, which is campaign is to create a diversity committee. This will keep the organization accountable for inclusivity and representation. This will lead to a trickle-down effect. First, with this new committee, the diversity committee, people of color members will be hired, and therefore there will be a shift in the board of members' positions, therefore leading to more diversity throughout the board of members, and therefore having representation in important decision-making positions. As representation increases in the organization, more diverse partnerships will also increase, meaning that the Art of Elysium will serve more diverse communities. And lastly, the organization will get more people of color engagement. When people see individuals who look like them, they will be more inclined to support and volunteer, or feel more comfortable being served by someone who has gone through similar life experiences.
So our fundraising plan, in order to raise money for the organization's new diversity committee, which Jillian just did an excellent job of explaining, we plan to hold an annual art auction. Holding an art auction is an excellent way for nonprofits to raise money for artists and art-related businesses to publicize their art or products or services for bidders to buy quality art at reasonable prices. For the annual art auction, our hope is to have featured popular artists similar but not exactly to the British artist David Hockney. If any of you guys have heard of him, he has sold a painting at an auction for $90 million. And you can just imagine if you would have, in addition to local Black artists of color, one featured artist that is known for their artwork and can sell a piece of artwork at a very high price, you can just imagine what could be done with that money. With this money from the annual auction, we plan to directly fund the salaries of the new diversity committee. In addition to the annual auction, we plan to have a monthly event called Brushstrokes and Bubbly, which is just another word for a paint and sip. And basically, what will happen at these monthly paint and sips is that we will choose local artists who are also Black or someone of color, and they will lead the paint and sip as well as get a portion of the proceeds that are donated to this paint and sip. The other portion will go towards inclusive programs that the diversity committee will eventually put in place.
So the need and purpose of this is to create a diversity committee to keep the organization accountable. Like I explained before, this will lead to the trickle-down effect. So on the right, we have some pictures of individuals who attended their Heaven Gala in January of 2020. So it was very, very recent. And the reason why they're there is to show these are 6 out of many, many, many pictures they have of this gala, and these are only 6 of, as you can see, which is not a very diverse collection of people. Basically, this is just an example of how much they do not include people of color in important roles that will lead to more representation and therefore help more communities in need than they already serve. So just like I said, all of these people that did attend, as a fundraiser, of course, were very important people who are of Caucasian descent. So there aren't any important Black or Latino or other people of color representatives to even donate or add to this organization as a whole. So hopefully by having this diversity committee, we can change that and therefore have a trickle-down effect into the rest of the organization.
So when we were choosing our team for this campaign, we wanted to choose people that would have an impact on every part of the organization that we wanted to create change in. So our team consists of the founder, Jennifer Howell, Rembrandt Flores of Entertainment Fusion Group, who is a partner in their PR department, the board program chairs, Reagan and Lauren O'Reilly, and the diversity committee, which is kind of what Jillian mentioned earlier. It's a small group of people of color and a few Caucasians that will monitor the amount of diversity, representation, and inclusion of people of color in the organization. So the diversity committee will be in charge of evaluation and the tracking of the changes for this campaign. Our goal is to reach at least 20% diversity within the organization because that is the average for nonprofits. So we want to reach that even though we are striving for a higher percentage. This evaluation will take place over a 3-year span, which will give the organization enough time to increase outreach, expand their programs, understand the trend of the changes that are being made, and also find out what other funding they may need because of this expansion. At the end of each fiscal year, the diversity committee will have a report of the changes that have been made, the update on the percentage of diversity within the organization, and just a couple other things of about the trends of what is happening. This tracking would take place be looked at through the media postings and the overall growth of Art of Elysium inside and outside the organization.
So now we'll talk about our serving and reach. So with our development plan in place, we plan to serve people of color throughout the Los Angeles County. Currently, the Art of Elysium only serves primarily white and Latinx communities throughout Los Angeles, as stated on their website. The two communities that are currently benefiting the most from the Art of Elysium programming are North Hollywood and Santa Monica. After conducting some research, we think that Los Angeles neighborhoods like Watts, West Adams, and Southeast would benefit most from a nonprofit like the Art of Elysium and its programs. It is our hope that by implementing this development plan to create a diversity committee, partnerships and service in communities generally populated by people of color will become a priority in this organization. Some of our goals include increasing the amount of diversity in their team and board. So as we talked about a lot throughout this presentation, their board is not diverse at all, and that is something that we definitely want to change. Our next goal is having a stronger connection with more diverse communities and expanding their outreach. If any of you have free time and would like to go and check out their website, you'll notice that their website is not diverse at all either, and that is something that we'd like to change as well. Our third goal is having a more diverse partnership company to support inclusivity objectives. Our 3 objectives include currently 9 significant board members, and we would like to have 1/3 of the board members be people of color when it is time for the board to be switched out. Our second objective is that within the 2021 and 2022 year, the board should look extremely different. So we're not saying that this needs to be something implemented immediately. However, over time, this is something that definitely should change. And lastly, their website and social media should show more inclusivity and representation. So as I mentioned before, if you guys have any free time, please feel free to go check out their website, and you'll notice where our concerns are and why this is so important to us. And thank you so much. That concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, we'll be free to answer them.
Any questions for Team 6? Okay, good work, ladies. All right, we're moving on to team number 5. Team number 5, and then we're closing out with team number 4.
Sounds good. Pulling up my screen now. Oh. Wow, something is not happening right now. Okay, there we go. I didn't press the right button. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, great. So my name is Amberine Andrews.
And I'm Niambi Steele, and today we'll be presenting on Broadway Cares / Equity Fights AIDS. I'm suffering from like a major migraine right now, so Amberine agreed to like contribute to most of the presentation, but I just wanted to kind of give the why we chose this organization. So basically, the first group presented on this also, but they support AIDS research, they support people suffering from it. It's like so common in the Black community. We thought we should focus on something that actually affects us on like a day to, maybe not personally, but like people that we know, people in our community. So we thought the bringing awareness is the main part that we wanted to focus on, so we can educate Black people on ways to protect themselves from contracting the viruses, or if they do contract it, what happens, what's at their disposal. And so Amberine already had experience with the organization when she watched the performance of the Cell Block Tango on one of their Broadway Backwards fundraising initiatives. So after our research, we decided this was the best possible option for us. So go ahead.
Thank you. So as previously stated in another presentation, Broadway Cares is an organization that helps people nationwide to receive financial assistance to cover the needs of individuals fighting AIDS by utilizing the talent from artists from across the country in the American theater community. Their mission is as follows, which is to mobilize the unique abilities within the entertainment industry to mitigate the suffering of individuals affected by AIDS and HIV, to support organizations across the country which provide treatment or services for people specifically affected by HIV and AIDS and their families, to increase public awareness and understanding of HIV and AIDS through the creation and dissemination of educational materials, which is what we will focus on in our presentation, as well as to support efforts by the entertainment industry and other charitable or educational endeavors, in each case as approved by the Board of Trustees. This was directly from their website, as we wanted to bring this information to you. A few of the programs that they host are Dancers Responding to AIDS, which was founded in 1991, their education outreach program, and affiliate organizations. As you can see, the Dancers Responding to AIDS program was the dance community's first ongoing effort to support those living with HIV and AIDS. And they fund all 50 states and their different social service organizations. The Education Outreach Program works with students across the country. And this program actually mainly focuses on high school students, but in this presentation, we will show you how we will expand on that education outreach program. They also work with affiliate organizations, and yeah. So as you had seen in the previous organization, they have the Red Bucket program. So a few things they focus on are the needs of people who have AIDS and their families, which include nutritious meals, a community of support, emergency financial assistance, counseling and social services, healthcare, and life-saving medications. They also receive money from the Actors Fund, as well as national grants programs, and their impact is across the country. As you can see, a few places are in Columbus, Ohio, San Diego, California, and New York, New York. So in the fiscal year of 2020, Broadway Cares broke a record and provided $18.1 million in grants, which exceeds the previous year of grant making by 22%, which is absolutely incredible. They've also established an emergency assistance fund, a COVID-19 emergency assistance fund, with an initial $250,000 on March 17th. In total, however, the COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Fund has provided $6.5 million to the Actors Fund so far. In total, Broadway Cares awarded $11.2 million to the Actors Fund in the fiscal year of 2020. So our fundraising campaign idea, as we know, major events, while looking into the epidemic, Nyambi recognized that AIDS affects the Black and Latinx community quite a lot and is in fact one of the highest killers of our community. So due to this, Nyambi suggested that the Howard Players partners with Broadway Cares in an event that will be a formal dinner and silent auction to raise money and awareness for AIDS research, targeting HBCU students and alumni and their supporters. There will be performances by artists volunteering from the School of Fine Arts and members of the Howard Players that will be curated based on the theme, which is AIDS research and education, as well as presenters from celebrity presenters who are affiliated with the organization Broadway Cares, such as Billy Porter, who played an HIV positive character on the show Pose on FX. Our fundraising plan includes tracking our money via purchasing a dinner ticket, and people will participate in the silent auction where items that have to do with Broadway are possibly celebrities' time will be donated and purchased. The purpose of the fundraiser is to raise money towards AIDS research while raising awareness within the Black and specifically HBCU community. As we know, when major events happen at Howard, especially ones involving celebrities, other HBCUs show up and show out. So this fundraiser's goal is to raise that awareness by utilizing Howard as a way to get to other people, especially Black and Brown people, on the impact of AIDS, as many students are unaware of it and unaware of the difference that they can make as well. The fundraiser is meant to create an open dialogue and a safe space for Black people to receive proper information, as well as gain supporters and donors from this community. So our team would consist of both the Broadway Cares Education Outreach Program, which, as I previously stated, is mainly based in high school, but this education should span to college students, as this is where a lot of students start exploring in college. So we thought that it would be very helpful to use the Education Outreach Program from the Broadway Cares Foundation, as well as the Howard Players Education Outreach Program, Special Events Co-Coordinators and the Marketing Director, so that we can help get the word out. Along with the planning of the planning team, which is what I just mentioned, we also have the Howard Players members from the digital ensemble, the writers ensemble, and the performance ensemble, who present several different performances and that have to do with AIDS and AIDS education during this presentation, as well as utilizing the catalog of artists affiliated with Broadway Cares to perform at the event. We will be tracking the funds gained by purchasing these dinner tickets through Eventbrite, because Eventbrite is a program that many Howard students already use and are familiar with. We will be serving the DMV metropolitan area's college students, as well as the graduates, as we know many of the alumni come back and want to donate and want to participate in Howard University events, as well as specifically from HBCUs, as well as the surrounding theater and queer community. Some of our goals include supporting college students living with AIDS by targeting the HBCU community, which will then spread out. We want to increase the numbers of donors and volunteers amongst one of the most affected communities, which will grow with the foundation. AKA, we want long-term donors who will start out young, maybe volunteer when they're younger and aren't necessarily making all the money that they will when they're older. And eventually, as they grow with the foundation and as the foundation grows, they give back to this foundation so that we can help continue to provide materials and resources for both the research of AIDS as well as people affected by AIDS. We also want to assist the decline of the spread of HIV and AIDS within the Black community by provoking healthy, educated conversations. We all know that art is a reflection of life, and when we bring art into the circle and we provide fun things that people want to do, they start talking. In those conversations, especially in the socially aware climate that we are in today, these conversations will come up, and proper information should be spread, especially via social media. Some of our objectives, specifically of this night, is to raise $50,000 by the end of the night. As you can see, we will be accepting online donations, and this will be open until midnight to qualify as part of the fundraiser. However, people can continue to donate. We want to host a successful dinner and auction, and we want to create and present cohesive, relevant content during the one-night event to help educate the audience about prevention and resources to help them, um, of AIDS.
I think it was just really important to highlight HBCU students as a whole, because like knowing how much the power of social media has and the power that Howard Twitter has, just as a whole, we have such an influence. Like, we are the people that are going to be taking over the world later. So getting really into all the big issues that affect us and affect our people is really important. And of course, this fundraiser will be in the time after COVID, because that's the way, or if there is an after COVID, that's the way everyone would be most comfortable at the dinner sort of thing. But hopefully this fundraiser will be able to actually not only educate, but also raise funds for the Broadway Cares Foundation.
Yes, so that is our presentation. We thank you so much for listening. And if you have any more questions, you're free to ask us now.
Any questions for Team 5? Okay, thank you so much, ladies. Excellent work. We're moving on to our final and last team, team number 4. We're hitting close to time. So if you absolutely have to leave, just leave off quietly. But if you can stay on an extra few minutes to give the time, they're a good 7 to 10 minutes or so, that would be very, very kind. Thank you so much. All right, team number 4.
Alrighty. Hello. Oops, sorry. All right. So Shayna and I did, sorry, let me change my screen. There we go. Shayna and I did the Women's Center for Creative Works, located in Los Angeles, California. Okay, there we go. So the Women's Center's mission is to create and cultivate LA's feminist communities and practices. And they do this through programming and events. So they primarily focus on programs that offer services to immigrants, to women of color, and are trying to create an inclusive intersectional version of feminism. And the Women's Center started in 2013 when a group of 3 friends really just started having dinners to discuss intersectional feminism and modern feminism. And that friend group just kept growing to the point where they decided to make an organization that could really serve the community and not just make this version of feminism within their friend group, but something that could be implemented into a business and in the community at large. So I'm not going to read all their values because they have quite a few, but basically all of their values are about being inclusive and are about intersectional feminism. So they want to create a place that is affirming and inclusive, a place that cultivates spirit of hospitality and care, explicitly intersectional and working towards a feminism prioritizing all women. So basically all their values are very specific in the type of feminism they're trying to cultivate and very specific in the inclusivity that they seek to have. So their fundraising structure has 6 main ways of fundraising. That's memberships, individual contributions, earned income, private foundations, government grants, and project budgets. So they have about 450 members who give on average $10 a month. And then in addition to that, they have individual contributions. So this happens when they have things like events or fundraisers and people give a one-time donation on that day. Earned income comes in from renting their space and also some events if they do have tickets for that event. They have many private foundations and government grants that support them. And then project budgets are basically whenever they have an event, they'll create a budget for that event. And let's say they're having someone from the center go to speak at a college, if they create a budget for that event, whatever that surplus is goes into their project budget, and then that goes back into the foundation. So everything that they're doing is really going back into the organization. Donors and grants. So like I said, they have quite a few donors, both private foundations and government grants. And these range from arts organizations to organizations that support or that are fighting inequity. So like the Andy Warhol Foundation, the Parsons Foundation, and then they're also heavily supported by the state of California and Los Angeles County. So there's a few grants that they receive from the state. So even despite the financial burdens of the COVID-19 pandemic, they're still doing pretty well. So basically all of their grants that they had in the 2018-2019 fiscal year have continued into the 2019-2020 fiscal year. So they're still supported by Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture. They're still supported by the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs and other California state grants. In addition, they still are receiving money from the Wilhelm Family Foundation and the Parsons Foundation, and basically just keeping up with their grants, which is their main stream of income. And the last on file year for them was 2018-2019, and they brought in a profit of $458,000, had expenses of $405,000, $405,000. So it's about a $53,000 surplus, and they have assets worth $124,000. So even though they're a fairly small organization, and that's a fairly small budget, they're still having a surplus and bringing in that $53,000 in addition to their assets.
So they have WCCW has a ton of programs. Actually, it's over 500 on their site, and it goes from either basket weaving to art and technology labs. So we look for something that aligns with their core values that Chelsea just mentioned. And we ended up choosing to do something that they had already done, which was a COVID-19 relief fund for artists. So we just decided to build on that because they have so many programs. Oh, you go to the next one. So we would be serving low-income artists and artistic businesses who identify as women, trans, non-binary, or as a person of color. Because WCCW is a feminist organization, these will be the people we would be giving the grant money to. And they do have a lot of programs about people who are chronically ill or immunocompromised. And so we added that to the list. So people who can get it, who are over 21, currently sick, or have been sick with COVID, undocumented, because they do deal with a lot of immigration. Primary caregivers, experiencing food or housing insecurities, and people whose conditions have been aggravated by the pandemic. We go to the next one. Our goal was to provide funds to low-income artists and businesses during the pandemic. One of our objectives was to reach out to our donors and community partners and suggest that our board join in for the search for donors and to create an application document that the applicants will sign up and add their W-4s and name the reason why they're signing up before our deadline. You go to the next one. So we decided we would give $2,500 to 9 different artistic businesses and $1,000 to individuals, including our members. So we would need to raise $31,500. Next. So our committee would consists of the executive director, the programming director, the communications and marketing director, and the social media manager. The executive director would be reaching out to our community partners and our board to get more donors. Our programming director will be doing like a lot of the brunt of the work, because people will be putting in, these businesses and individuals will be putting in their W-4s, and that has, Social Security and a lot of private information. They will probably be the only one really looking at that, and deciding who would be chosen for the grants. The communications and marketing director, along with the social media manager, will be putting it online on their website and spreading the word to the counties that were chosen. So our fundraising plan, we plan on doing what works for most nonprofits, sending out blast emails to our members, asking for donations, because most donations come from individuals at the end of the day. Adding a monthly gift section in our emails, making phone calls to our community partners. And it doesn't, I wrote down, you don't have to know a lot of rich people in order to get funds, because say one of our community partners is Substantial Little Tokyo, and they don't make too much. I think it was like 13 million in assets. So they don't make a lot, but they're one of our biggest partners. And so we would ask our community partners and reaching out to our board of directors for their connections, and reaching out to our loyal donors. So WCCW has something called the intersectional goddess members, who are the ones who donate or give the most, pay the most to become a member. So it's either $120 a month or $1,200 yearly. And so we'll be reaching out to them to ask them to donate, and adding a donation link to our website for anyone who comes on who might want to donate. That's the end. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you so much. I was trying to see if anybody had any questions. It doesn't appear that anybody does. Everyone did very, very good with their presentations. If for some reason your group has not submitted your actual paper, please be sure to do so in Blackboard. And one team member from each of the groups, or teams rather, needs to email the PowerPoint presentation to me, okay? All right, thank you so much again. I look forward to seeing everybody on Tuesday.
Have a lovely weekend, Professor.
You too, take care, everybody.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.